Stage 17, just a flattish little thing, and a 5-rider break. Actually make that 4 with the departure of Caja Rural's Luis Masbonet around 30k. But I'm done poking fun of him, and besides this stretch of cobbles with a drain-filled center gutter on rolling terrain came with just 4.7k, and there were still 3 riders up the road. Guys, Chris Froome jockeyed for position well with Giant Shimano's John Degenkolb, the things one can accomplish when not staring at a stem, and once the peloton got clear of the cobbles, Rohan Dennis of BMC made one last surge with Lampre's Elia Favili, holding off the pack into the final kilometer. Chaotic sprint, Orica Green Edge's Michael Matthews is gunning for Degenkolb's wheel from at least 500 meters, but wheel stalking is tricky. He has to stop pedaling here to avoid the barriers, then immediately re-accelerate to get across the road. While Degenkolb manages to box out Trek's Jesper Stuyven for his teammate Fabian Cancellara's wheel, Matthews ends up behind BMC's Philippe Gilbert, whom he then has to ride around, eating even more wind. The effort puts the OGE rider in prime position when Degenkolb finally does launch, but the earlier surges seem to have taken a bit off his final kick, nearly causing Matthews to lose second to Cancellara, who takes a much more direct path to the line. A few hills here, and come on, Adam Hansen, the Top Gun episode was like 2 weeks ago.
I had the shot, there was no danger, so I took it.
The peloton brought the Lotto Belisol rider to heel 2k later, with Sky mobilizing to turn screws shortly afterwards. Caja Rural's Luis Leon Sanchez was the last break survivor, taking the KOM to hold his advantage in that competition over the GC favorites. He was collected by a reduced peloton just outside 10k to go. Movistar's Alejandro Valverde beat out Froome for a sprint moments later, but still wasn't happy with his teammates for failing to shut the Sky rider, still just seconds behind him on GC, out of the bonus entirely. Many attacks as the group entered the final climb, most persistently from Giant Shimano's Warren Barguil, who could frankly stand to spend a bit more time staring at his stem and less looking over his shoulder. The peloton chased and held up until Astana's Fabio Aru definitively went away at 3.8k. Despite having over a minute's GC cushion on the young Italian, Katusha's Joaquin Rodriguez reeled him back in, or almost did, when an uncharacteristically cagey attack from Froome caught the chasers off guard. Froome bridged and fell into quick order with Aru. Valverde finally shamed race leader Alberto Contador into doing some chasing, and while Aru took the stage, the duo's advantage was a slim 13 seconds, but enough to put Froome into second place overall. Another brace of Category 2 climbs, 3-rider break, but not a lot of pressure put on the field on the way up the final obstacle of the day. Astana's Alexei Lutsenko and BMC's Sammy Sanchez briefly had some space, but Giant Shimano seemed to have things well in hand. Until...
Tower, this is Ghost Rider requesting a flyby.
Negative, Ghost Rider, the pattern is full.
Actually, this wasn't quite a flyby. Hansen was immediately marked on this uncategorized climb 4k from the end, but he held the pressure on until the field got tired of keeping him close, then made another surge. The descent put the Lotto rider inside the final 2k, and with the chase in relative disarray, he took the stage with ample time for a salute. Kind of the final reckoning here, 4-rider break, big gap, Contador still with a minute plus to burn on Froome, so Astana and Sky doing most of the work chasing. Lampre's Przemysław Niemec proved his early stage win was no fluke, holding on from the break until the final climb at 9k to go, by which point Sky had whittled the chase down to the heads of state. Katusha's Joaquin Rodriguez went away just after the catch, searching for the podium place roughly a GC minute ahead of him, and finding some sort of fan versus moto interaction on the way. Valverde responded to protect his gap, Froome followed to protect his, and Contador and Aru hovered in hopes of a stage win. At 6.3k to go, Froome put in a concerted effort, shelling Aru and eventually Valverde, towing Contador all the way up to Rodriguez roughly a kilometer later. Froome made an ineffective surge but kept the pacemaking going, checking back in on Valverde periodically and eventually dispatching Rodriguez at 4.2k to go, leaving the Katusha rider too battered to continue his assault on Valverde's podium spot. Finally, at 2.1k from the finish on the race's penultimate stage, the Commissar attempted to do something about the moto problem. Froome, inspired by this and undeterred by some debris, made a final dig, but Contador responded and countered, taking the stage and securing the overall win. Froome, then Valverde, rounded out the day's and the Vuelta's top 3. Not sure whose idea finishing with a prologue was, but riders went out onto the wet cobbles with as much enthusiasm as you might expect after a month of racing. A lot of sitting up and coasting, no one during Eurosport's coverage coming anywhere close to the time set by Movistar's Adriano Malori. With third-place stage finisher Dennis crashing just after the line, it was no surprise that even Contador's victory salute seemed a little ginger. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.